if I were trying to like pick what our top 10 most successful founders would have said about themselves when we were interviewing them at YC, I always figure it out, and I never give up. Would have been high on the list. And everyone thinks the thing that really matters is how smart they are, or their domain expertise, or their network, or their connections. It really is this kind of a personality trait. People have different phrases for that. Determination, relentlessly resourceful is one that Paul Graham uses. But that spirit is the most important factor, I think, in successful founders. You need to have everything else, but a lot of people have everything else. This, I think, is the kind of the rare and the limiting trait. The good news about this is I think people can kind of learn it. People don't try too often, but I think this is possible, where if you apply yourself to getting better in this way and the way you do for anything else, I think people make huge strides. This is not something that if you're not born with it, there's no chance. Three things that we have observed about how successful founders get things done: focus, self-belief, and personal connections. This actually started something Charlie Rose said, that he had observed that the way people got things done in the world was a combination of focus and personal connections. And then for startups, I think it's really important to add this. You actually have to believe in yourself. You actually have to believe you might do it. But these three things we've seen again and again. And in fact, if I were looking for a co-founder, I would look for a lot of that. Like, does someone have a relentless focus? Are they just going to get this one thing done and keep their blinders on, not get distracted by shiny objects along the way? Do they actually believe that this is possible? Because momentum is this crazily self-fulfilling prophecy. And can they form the personal connections that it takes to be successful? Will they be able to recruit and retain a world-class team? Will they be able to sell their product? Will they be able to raise money? Will they be able to talk to the press? The ability to form these personal connections is super important. Another thing that I did not used to believe was this important, and now I do, is clear communication. And vision and thought is part of that, but really clear communication. Almost all of the best startups that we have ever been involved with, from the very first time we met those founders, they were able to very concisely and clearly communicate what they were doing in like 25 words. And I don't know why this is so important, and maybe that you need this to spread the message, but I can certainly say that founders who aren't good at this don't really go on to be successful. Founders that don't get good at clear, concise communication really struggle. And you can prove this to yourself quickly by just looking at the founders of really successful companies. They're all good at this. So I think this is an area to invest in and get better in. If you have those things, then one thing you can do is attract great people to work on the company with you, which is hard and important. It's really, really hard to recruit the 20th employee for a startup. One thing that I always tell people is it is easier to start a hard startup than it is to start an easy startup. And the reason is, you need a startup that is going to be inspiring. You need a startup that people are going to want to help you with. And if you are another startup that kind of fades into the noise and no one really cares that much about, maybe a fine business, but it's just not exciting. No one wants to contribute their energy to it. It's really hard. Recruiting that 20th employee is really hard. You need an exciting vision, and you need to be good at communication and personal relationships. And then also, founders just get a huge amount of work done themselves. So in the early days, especially, you kind of got to do everything, and there's a lot to do. And so people that have this sort of like focus and maniacal productivity is really important. The thing that people always want to talk to me about, though, is none of those things. People always want to talk about the idea. The idea is important, for sure. But there are a lot of good ideas in the world. There are far fewer people that are willing to put in the effort that it takes over years or decades to build the great company than there are people who have great ideas. That said, starting a startup with a bad idea is also bad. So I'm happy to talk about this and about how to have good ideas, but this is always what people want to talk about. A lot of people think if they could just come up with a good idea, then they can start a really successful company. We've run this experiment at YC. We funded 21 companies where the founders seemed really good, but they didn't have an idea. All 21 failed in the first year. by far the worst experiment we've ever run.